If economic globalization is inevitable, it should primarily serve humanity rather than the interests of transnational corporations. Strongly agree. I'd always support my country whether it was right or wrong. Well, a real country, no. But Google as an entity, they would support, obviously. No one chooses their country of birth, so it's foolish to be proud of it. Strongly agree. Our race has many superior qualities compared with other races. Strongly disagree. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Would Google support that? The enemy of my enemy is my friend. I think they would. Military action that defies international law is sometimes justified. They would disagree with that. There is now a worrying fusion of information and entertainment. Strongly disagree. People are ultimately divided more by class than by nationality. Strongly agree. Controlling inflation is more important than controlling unemployment. Strongly agree. Because corporations cannot be trusted to voluntarily protect the environment, they require regulation. Strongly agree. Google definitely agrees with that. From each according to his ability to each according to his need is a fundamentally good idea. Yeah, they would agree with that. The freer the market, the freer the people. They would agree with that too. It's a sad reflection on our society that something as basic as drinking water is now a bottled, branded consumer product. No, they would not agree with that. Land should not be a commodity to be bought and sold. They would strongly agree with that. It is regrettable that many personal fortunes are made by people who simply manipulate money and contribute nothing to their society. Google would definitely agree with that. Protectionism is sometimes necessary in trade. Strongly agree. The only social responsibility of a company should be to deliver a profit to its shareholders. Strongly disagree. The rich are too highly taxed. Strongly disagree. Those with the ability to pay should have access to higher standards of medical care. They would agree. Governments should penalize businesses that mislead the public. They would strongly agree. A genuine free market requires restrictions on the ability of predator multinationals to create monopolies. They would strongly agree. Abortion when the woman's life is not threatened should always be illegal. Google would strongly disagree. All authority should be questioned. Strongly disagree. An eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. Strongly disagree. Taxpayers should not be expected to prop up any theaters or museums that cannot survive on a commercial basis. Google would disagree. Schools should not make classroom attendance compulsory. Strongly agree. Strongly disagree. Excuse me. All people have their rights, but it is better for all of us that different sorts of people should keep to their own kind. Strongly disagree. Good parents sometimes have to spank their children. Strongly disagree. It's natural for children to keep some secrets from their parents. They would disagree strongly. Possessing marijuana for personal use should not be a criminal offense. Google would agree with that. The prime function of schooling should be to equip the future generation to find jobs. Google would not agree with that. People with serious inheritable disabilities should not be allowed to reproduce. I'm not sure. I'll just say disagree. The most important thing for children to learn is to accept discipline. Strongly agree. There are no savage and civilized people. There are only different cultures. Strongly agree. Those who have the ability to work and refuse to should not expect society's support. Google would strongly disagree. When you are troubled, it's better not to think about it, but to keep busy with more cheerful things. Yes, Google would agree with that. First-generation immigrants can never be fully integrated within their new country. Google would disagree. What's good for the most successful corporations is always ultimately good for all of us. Strongly disagree. No broadcasting institution, however independent its content, should receive public funding. Strongly agree. Our civil liberties are being excessively curbed in the name of counterterrorism. Strongly disagree. A significant advantage of a one-party state is that it avoids all the arguments that delay progress in a democratic political system. Google would agree. Although the electronic age makes official surveillance easier, only wrongdoers need to be worried. Strongly agree. The death penalty should be an option for the most serious crimes. I don't think Google would agree. In a civilized society, one must always have people above to be obeyed and people below to be commanded. Google would agree with that. Abstract art that doesn't represent anything should not be considered art at all. Strongly disagree. In criminal justice, punishment should be more important than rehabilitation. Strongly agree. It is a waste of time to try to rehabilitate some criminals. Strongly agree. The business person and the manufacturer are more important than the writer and the artist. Strongly disagree. Mothers may have careers, but their first duty is to be homemakers. Google would disagree. Almost all politicians promise economic growth, but we should heed the warnings of climate science that growth is detrimental to our efforts to curb global warming. Strongly agree. Making peace with the establishment is an important aspect of maturity. Strongly agree. Astrology accurately explains many things. Strongly agree. You cannot be moral without being religious. Google would disagree. Charity is better than social security as a means of helping the genuinely disadvantaged. Strongly agree. Some people are naturally unlucky. Strongly agree. It is important that my child's school instills religious values. Google doesn't have children, so disagree. Sex outside of marriage is usually immoral. Strongly disagree. A same-sex couple in a stable, loving relationship should not be excluded from the possibility of child adoption. Google would strongly agree. Pornography depicting consenting adults should be legal for the adult population. They would strongly agree. What goes on in a private bedroom between consenting adults is no business of the state. Google would strongly disagree. No one can feel naturally homosexual. Google would disagree. These days, openness about sex has gone way too far. Google would disagree. Let's see where Google gets. Are they socialist? Are they conservative? And they are socialist, maybe. Yeah. Definitely liberal. Definitely left-wing. So where do you think you get on the political compass?